Well, hello to everyone watching my quaint little YouTube channel out there in 2022. Hope you all had a killer New Year's, or at least as good as you can with COVID restrictions. Out in my shed at the moment, I was hoping to bring everyone an episode on getting Smokey ready for the 2022 season. Unfortunately, I've got no engine to put in the car at the moment. It seems the parts are not really available that I need. But also, I'm waiting on the engine builder to get through a backlog because no one's spending any money on travel, and turns out they're all spending it on new engines. So, waiting my turn at the moment. I'm hoping that that doesn't bring too much of a rush towards the start of the season where I'm slamming to get that car done. Unfortunately, not really too much on that front at the moment, so I figured I may as well get stuck into Coops here. Obviously, we took this car off to get quoted on the body and rust repairs recently. But that came back as, well, a bit more expensive than the normal rattle can jobs that I do on the 180. And also, I need to wait a bit to get my spot in the queue to get all that done. So, can't really get anything on the body side done, but there is a lot of mechanical stuff that we can get cracking with. But in particular, the RB20 has a tendency to leak from many of its orifices, including water and oil and power steering. So we get to go take a look at that, figure out what the go is. There's another plane flying overhead. I literally just stopped the take because of it, and I'm not going to stop this one, so I hope you're happy that we're rolling through with it. One of the reasons I want to get cracking on this car is it's going to be a car in my wedding. I got a wedding for myself, and I've got a partner that's coming along, but it's really a wedding for me. Coming up, and that's going to be in March. And this is going to be one of the wedding cars. So I need to get this ready. And I know the second that Smokey's ready, that's going to become the number one priority. So while I got some downtime, it's going to be good to crack on with this. Get this thing fixed up so that my groomsmen can drive it to my big day. And, you know, her big day too, but it's really about me. So a lot of the videos for this car is going to be more updates on things that I've done to it rather than actually me doing them, because I'm doing them so intermittently between everything else. But what we've got up to here is the intake manifold is off. There is so much junk that lives underneath this intake manifold. Hoses, vacuum lines, wiring, and we had a couple of water leaks under there. So we pulled the intake off. We've got all new silicone hoses. Want to try and get this engine back to being pretty much standard for the minute, get it back to a base of stock and standard, and then if we want to do modifications, we can work with it from there. And once we do that, we should have a pretty much standard motor with the exception of just the intercooler. That's what we're going to do for the minute on this engine side of things. I'm going to start probably pulling apart this side and cleaning that up, figuring out where the oil's coming from, so we're not leaking all over my garage and driveway like we are at the moment. Alright, well, let's get stuck into this oily mess. Oh, yummy. So we're off and racing already. So these are stainless steel intercooler pipes. They're been interestingly welded, and they've got some interesting bead rolling going on the side here. They are chock full of oil though, so I don't know if the turbo's on its way out or it's got heaps and heaps of blow-by, or that's going to be a future problem, I can tell for sure. Well, god damn it, I just cleaned all of the floor up, and look what I did. Took this intercooler pipe off just to give it a bit of a clean up, and all of that oil has poured out of it. So here's the next absolute shit show that I don't want to have to deal with. In there, you might be able to see it. It's basically a lake of oil inside the intercooler. That puddle, I dare say, would go front to back. Man, I'm really starting to get concerned about either the engine is breathing heaps and heaps of oil, or that turbo is completely rooted. So, not good at all. So I got to admit, I'm feeling a lot better about this car now. Now it's a bit cleaner, even though it's still apart. Makes me feel a lot better about the car and working on it, working in the engine bay. It's making me feel like we're getting some progress here with it, which is the main thing. But there's something that's been on my mind for a little while, and I've been umming and ahhing about doing it, and I think we will end up doing it, and that's removing all the Hicas gear. particularly while the intake's out, it's probably the best time to do it. This car already has a Hicas lock bar in the rear, so Hicas isn't actually doing anything anyway. If you don't know what Hicas is, it's basically a four-wheel steering system that Nissan had from sort of the 90s era, but it didn't really make the driving experience any better, and it made it a bit unpredictable, and it was basically a system there to mean that you got understeer rather than oversteer, and noob drivers didn't end up backwards in a hedge. But I'm not worried about going sideways, so I think we can kick that to the curb. So before I start ripping things apart like a madman, I thought I might show you all the junk that needs to come out. So this bracket solenoid hose mess here is the main problem. You can see how close it is to the intake manifold, so that is a right pain of a spot, and obviously there's just a lot of junk there. And there's a couple of other lines and bits and pieces, so once you get rid of that, you basically clean up that whole chassis rail at the top. The idea of removing vanes out the back of this power steering pump is apparently the way to go, so we're going to get busy doing that. Also had a look at the turbo situation online and sort of gauged what it could be. I think it is the turbo that's creating that oil in all the intercooler pipes, so that one's going to have to disappear. We'll figure that one out a little bit later down. The truck, for the minute, let's just pull all this Hicas shit out. Pain in the ass, but we got it. And we got oil everywhere. Every single place. So I've got oil absolutely everywhere. All over the car, the floor. But I've got all of this junk up on the bench now, these lines. This is actually pretty damn heavy. Yeah, you probably can't tell. But that is a decent amount of weight. Not that it makes any real difference to the handling of the car, but righto, so new day, same oily clothes. Had a look last night, and the idea of removing Hicas by pulling apart this pump and getting rid of the vanes is the right way to go about it. So I'm going to pull that pump out, then we can get rid of all the lines and all the junk. Well, the pump's out and we're going pretty good. There's oil all over the areas that I just cleaned and all over the floor again. So, really doing well. This floor, lucky it isn't new. We've got the pump here. These are the 4 bolts we need to undo to access the internals. This port under here is the one that we need to block off. And I reckon we can get rid of this bracket too. So, I've got the tripod set up to catch it all. Let's pull this thing apart. So I got it apart, and you can see here all the vanes. This is what create the pressure. These little slits of metal, that they create the pressure for the Hicas, and they're what we need to remove. So I got a little magnet there. I'm going to use that to basically pull them out, because there's not too much that's holding it in there other than the casing. You can see there's so much more room down here now, so much room for activities. Got these lines that go down to the back of the car, and another 2 that go across to the other side of the engine under it. So the next thing I need to do is jack this car up, get underneath it and pull the rest of that junk out. But overall I'm pretty happy right now. It gives me the warm fuzzy feeling whenever we pull that useless junk out of the car. Yes. Stay there. Why did that whole thing move? Oh, I hate this. Oh, that was an absolute pain in the ass. Freaking jacking up low cars is just the worst thing. I got oil all over me again. I half popped my shoulder out trying to push a jack stand under. And the car tried to run me over by rolling off the ramps at the front. So, freaking winning on this one, I'll tell you that much. But anyway, I can get stuck into some actual progress under the car now. Okay then, so I've not filmed the last part because it's all underneath the car and you probably saw enough of my butt crack in the little montage of trying to get this thing in the air. So thought I might ask though, if you think Hicas is good or if it does help with the driving experience or the grip, chuck a comment down below because obviously I think it's junk, but I'm sure there's someone out there that has a somewhat plausible reason for thinking it's worth keeping. And here is all the Hicas junk. So this is all underneath the car and the rear, and then you've got the engine bay junk up the back there. So interested to see how much this weighs. Anyway, I'm gonna go inside now and put my stealthy shoes on so I can sneak out the bathroom scales out of the laundry without Naomi noticing that I'm gonna be using it for oily car parts weighing. So. Righto, well, mission accomplished. She didn't suspect anything, but I have already spilt fluid all over it, so we're off to a good start. Anyway, me and this handy dandy box here, we weigh, don't judge me, 90.5. Right. Oh, 99.1, so weighs just under 9 kilos. So basically, just get on a diet and you'll probably save more weight. Woo! Yes, I know the person that just admitted to the internet for being 90 kilos probably shouldn't tell people to get on a diet. As you can see here, this is the rack that we pulled out of the back, the Hicas rack. Bit of a story with this. I always thought or had in the back of my head from conversations with Todd that the Hicas didn't work on this car and that it had been locked. I always assumed it was with a lock bar. Then when we pulled this rack out the other day, I was kind of questioning myself saying, oh, okay. I guess, you know, those conversations weren't the way that I thought, or at least the car isn't the way that I thought. However, since then I pulled the boots off the end here and realized this car actually has what I'm pretty sure is a Tomei Hicas lockout kit, which is this washer here, and apparently according to what you get in the kit, there is also something on the Hicas computer. I guess after all that time, my feelings were actually right towards the conversation. It was just not quite in the fashion that I thought. Well, status update. Manifolds all off, turbos off. Cheers to the Jarretts for pulling this off one of the engines on their stand. It's an RB25 turbo, not quite the stock replacement, but it's a stock one for a 25. A little bit extra size to it, so it should go a little bit better. We shouldn't really need to mess with tuning or anything like that for this turbo as long as we keep it on the wastegate pressure. So the issue I had though is pulled the exhaust manifold off and it had one missing stud completely and 4 that were completely broken. They were basically finger tight when I went to undo them, and that was not a lot of fun. So I had Captain Thread out here today. Cheers to those guys. They've pulled out all the broken threads. We're going to replace them with all new studs because I have a feeling the other ones just get lots of heat cycles and then they end up breaking. So an update, it's the start of February now, so I've got pretty much a month to get this car ready because the 5th of March is my Bucks night. Then next weekend is Drifting SA round 1. Weekend after that is wedding. So month to get this thing ready. We're really closing in on time now. I've got some new bits and pieces though. Some exhaust manifold gaskets, turbo gaskets, water lines. The other thing I noticed is this is the standard RB25 turbo. This is the one that came off the car. So I didn't really pay too much attention before, but this definitely is not the standard turbo. This has Garrett on it. It looks a decent chunk bigger, and it has a nice little plate on it, an MTQ plate. So I don't really know what happened with that turbo. Maybe it's been high flowed or had some stuff done to it. Maybe it's rebuildable for the future. For the minute, we're not going to worry too much about that. But yeah, definitely had some kind of aftermarket turbo on it. Anyway, for the minute, going to slap these things back together, exhaust manifold on, turbo on, and hopefully this hot side is going to be all pretty much the way there, which is the plan. So I'm trying to fix the crusty parts on this car as we go. One of them, which we've got apart at the moment, is the intake manifold. It's not terribly nice looking aluminium down here. Crusty, oxidized, dirty, all the above. And yeah, we're going to fix that. We're going to take it up to a family friend tomorrow, and they are going to blast this thing back to being brand new. Apparently the process is really, really good. My brother did it on his 4-wheel drive and it come up looking smick. This is going to be, say, the before shot. And here's the after shot. So this got sandblasted, bead blasted, which is like tiny little glass particles, and then we hit it with the scourer to get this sort of textured finish back from it. So this is looking amazing. I thought it came up way better than I even expected. There was a couple of little issues though. Thermostat pipe is that rusted through, turns out. So we're gonna need a new one of these because it's completely gone, and I think the sandblaster just took off that very light material that was left. Personally though, I would rather figure that out now than figure it out down the track. So gonna buy a new one of those. I think you can still get them new from Nissan. Otherwise, all the intake came up looking really good. Obviously, we've got to put it all back together now. But yeah, this is gonna look amazing on the car. It's gonna look brand new. Yeah, we're running out of time, so I smashed out a whole bunch of work off camera. Turbo side is pretty much all sorted now. I got some heat proof or heat paint and painted the heat shield for this so it looks nice and silver rather than the grotty sort of rusty look that it had before. We got ourselves a stock airbox now too, which I'm stoked about. I think this is how I know I'm getting old, but this old floppy pod is gone. Power steering belt is still missing, but the actual power steering pump is in there with the block off for the Hicas, so that is really good. On the other side of the engine, it's all nice and shiny with the intake after all the bead blasting and polishing that we've done, so that's come up looking smick. And there's just a few little odds and ends that I need to button up for that to all be done. Righto, so she's got all her fluids in her, pretty much ready to fire her up. We have run it for a minute or two just to check that it does actually start. So I'm going to start it up now, back it back out, and then we can start taking a look at the body side of things. But yeah, let's finally fire this thing back up with all its new gear and all its new fresh bits and pieces and bring it back to life. So the car's out, we're giving it a bit of a clean at the moment. Lots and lots of dog fur in here. So we've, well, Tristan has done some vacuuming. I'm putting seat belts back in it. Don't think I'm gonna worry about putting anything in the back seat because we only need the front 2 seats for the groomsmen. And I'm just putting the seat belts in for those now. So not too much longer to go. Just gotta put these external trims on and maybe tape up this rear end like Todd originally had it, just to hide the holes in the rear quarter there. Just a couple of last things to button up, and then this thing is going to be ready to go to my wedding as a wedding car. So it's finally happening. We're going for the first proper drive in the Skyline. Did take it to get everything wheel aligned and new tyres put on it the other day, but really only went around the block, so we're gonna head out to probably Cuddly Creek now, pick up Tristan and go see how this thing goes, see what problems it's got, and hopefully it all goes well. So we're finally out on the open road, and this thing actually drives pretty nicely. I'm pretty impressed. It's ran, we drove it out to Cuddly Creek and back, and didn't have too much issue. Did get a little bit hot when I started giving a bit of a hard time, but overall she goes pretty good. Maybe I need to replace the fan hub, but revs all the way out to 7 and a bit thousand RPM. All the gears work well, and haven't really had too much trouble with it. So a couple of little things to attend to. It's got a bit of a weird, like it dies and then comes back and then dies and comes back at about 10% throttle. And yeah, that's really it. It's only got about 6 pounds of boost, so it's not real quick at the moment, but honestly that's the least of my worries at the moment. Everything that we needed to have done to be able to go to the wedding, it's done it with flying colors. So yeah, overall I'm really happy. Obviously still a lot of more work to come to make this a nice historic reg car, but for the purposes of the wedding this thing is going to be perfect. And it goes pretty good still. So yeah, I'm overall stoked with it all, and can't wait to get all the rust side of things fixed up in the future and be able to drive this around on historic rego on nice sunny weekends. So cheers for watching this video, and I'll see you guys probably out at round 1 in a couple of weeks time, or if I don't get around to editing this quick enough, a couple of weeks past. Cheers.